Minutes, breaking news tonight. A new Congress sworn in, but for people in part of Mecklenburg, Union counties and beyond, they don't have someone representing them.
That is because the race between Mark Harris and Dan McCready is in limbo as the State Board of Elections investigates reports of elections fraud. Today, Harris met with state investigators answering their questions.
And tonight, he sat down only with Wbtv chief investigative reporter Nick Oxner. Nick starts our team coverage tonight from Raleigh. And Nick, sounds like you had a candid conversation with Mark Harris.
Yeah, Jamie, Maureen, we really did, especially when I asked him about the confidence that people should have in him if he were to be successful in his efforts to be certified and sent to Washington without a new election. Specifically, though, my interview came just minutes after Harris left the North Carolina State Board of Elections, where he met with investigators for about 2 hours. His meeting with investigators comes as state board staff continue to probe allegations of election fraud in the 9th Congressional District. Among those under the microscope in the probe is a contractor who worked for Harris's campaign. The allegations have kept Harris's win over Democrat Dan McCready from being certified, but he filed a new case in court Thursday morning asking a judge to immediately certify him as the winner. If that happens, he could be seated in Congress, even as questions of impropriety surrounding his election continue to swirl. How confident are you that that will result in this election being certified?
Well, we're hopeful. We're hopeful because we do feel like that there's some cases that are very similar in the sense that when there isn't a state board of elections, that you look to the county boards as the final authority. And in this case, all 8 county boards actually certified this race.
Let's say you're successful, the court certifies you, and you in Washington. There are a lot of people in the 9th District and across the country who are going to question the validity of you taking that seat. Would you feel comfortable taking the seat knowing there are questions out there and people who think you shouldn't go to Washington? Well, absolutely. And the reason that I think that is because we had an election. And when you go through an election, and there are many elections that there are questions raised or complaints filed, and they look at the facts in a case, and they come to recognize that even the number of ballots in question would not have changed the outcome of the election. And they're not going to seat me in Washington unless I have a certificate from North Carolina. And so the fact that we're going to be certified from North Carolina, I'm very comfortable going and representing the 9th District. Now, Harris and I talked about much more in our sit-down early this afternoon. We've posted our entire interview for you to watch online at Wbtv.com. Now reporting live in Raleigh, Nick Oxner, Wbtv on your side.
All right, Nick, and late this afternoon, Democrat Dan McCready responded on Twitter to Mark Harris's statements after he had that meeting with the Board of Elections. McCready said in several tweets, quote, "Let's remember that Harris is under investigation for unprecedented election fraud perpetrated by his campaign, spearheaded by a man he handpicked and paid to produce votes. He is not the victim here. The voters are." McCready goes on to say, quote, "Harris pretends to assist the investigation, but make no mistake, he's obstructing. He's refused to release 100,000 documents requested by the Elections Board that may be relevant." Jamie?
Now, while Harris fights to be seated, no one is currently representing the more than 700,000 people who live in that part of Mecklenburg, Union, and other counties in our Congress. Investigative reporter David Hodges continues our team coverage tonight with that. David?
Well, Jamie, just into the newsroom, we have new information from the court about Harris court filing. The trial court administrator wrote in a statement that anybody who wants to be heard in about Harris' petition has to submit a brief to the court by 5 p.m. January 14th. No date scheduled yet for the hearing, but there could be one by next week. So now on to how this all impacts you. We told you earlier this week that while the district lacks a representative, that congressional offices will be run by the clerk of the U.S. House of Representatives. But when that happens, we still just don't know. An interesting update today that if you try and visit the webpage of former Congressman Robert Pittenger, there's just nothing there. Whereas just 2 days ago, you could visit the site and get contact information. The 9th District office in Charlotte and D.C. remain closed today as the new Congress was sworn in. I called the House Administration Committee to ask when exactly the offices will be open. They don't have an answer yet. Eventually, they plan to staff the office so constituents can call to get help with visas, Medicaid, and other things that you rely on the federal government for. But when they'll reopen is just not clear. Maureen and Jamie, back to you.
David, thank you. We've been uncovering new details in this ongoing investigation. You can see everything we have unearthed online.